Hey, Fight fans, just wanted to give you a quick recap video on Canelo Triple G3. I'm pretty sure most of you are in bed if you did not fall asleep during the fight. Fortunately, I'm in media, so I had to stay up through everything. At least I got it right as far as who the winner was going to be. But how the fight turned out, I was completely off. I thought that after 4 years of chasing Canelo, feeling you got robbed in the second fight, that Triple G had one last hurrah in him and that he was willing to put everything on the line to try and get the victory. But as we have learned so many times throughout history, particularly in boxing, Father Time is undefeated. And we saw a Golovkin in there tonight who couldn't pull the trigger, didn't trust his chin and his durability and wanted no parts of a firefight, which was kind of his only chance to win. We saw after about the first 4 rounds, which you could argue he got shut out. Some people gave him the first round, that the strategy wasn't working. It wasn't just going to be, I'm going to jab him, because Canelo was content to just kind of sit back, throw combinations moderately, and not press the attack. So with that type of strategy, it was going to be on Triple G to kind of go inside and force exchanges, and he was not willing to do that. Anytime he got caught with a sharp, a left hook or an overhand right, that put him on his heels, made him reset, and it made him back off each and every time. So it was tough to see because the Golovkin that we've known for over a decade now was willing to go in there with the trenches, willing to exchange punches, willing to walk guys down, and was willing to take a punch to deliver more damage. We know one of his signature knockouts was him taking a punch when he was knocking out Daniel Geale. But that Golovkin, unfortunately, is long gone. And the fight that we got now looked more like a business decision than an actual fight. And what I mean by a business decision, we know really this fight only came about because of, Canelo getting beaten so soundly by Bivol in May. And this was the fight that he always knew was in his back pocket. I can always get this good payday and get some name recognition by going back to the Golovkin rivalry. And that's what it was. There was not any fire. People were trying to compare this to we were going to get an Ali Frazier type of fight. We were going to get Barrera and Morales. None of that. This was more akin to the rubber match between Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran. Very disappointing. And even on Canelo's end, I had him actually winning like the first 8 rounds. I felt that he had a shot to potentially stop Triple G if he, forced the issue in the championship rounds. I kind of thought he was going to do that and that he was just kind of carrying him and was going to go for the kill in those later rounds. But what it turned out is that it seemed like he gassed again. He slowed down as we've always seen in the late rounds with Canelo. Two of the judges, I believe, they gave Triple G like the last 3 or 4 rounds. And that's why we ended up with those two close scorecards of 115, 113, which was completely off to me. I think 116, 112 is as close as you can get if you're being completely generous to Triple G. But I felt like Canelo really had a chance to put the pressure on, not just physically and mentally, but mentally in those later rounds. But we found out after the fight that he had a bad hand injury and that he does feel like he needs surgery and he does want to take time off, he said. So we know there's not going to be a quick turnaround. We know that Matchroom was pushing for him to fight John Ryder probably in December. That's not going to happen now. He did mention that he is open to the Bivol rematch, but I can't see him coming off of surgery and a long break facing Bivol again on 175. So what I think is going to happen is after that surgery and that break, if he does come back in May for Cinco de Mayo, it's going to be against John Ryder. And then the question becomes, because we know John Ryder has no name recognition over here in the States, is that a fight that's going to be over in the UK, which would be interesting. So that's what we see on the horizon for Canelo. With Golovkin, I think we were all watching that fight, hoping that he would say, this is the end and I'm going to retire. But no, he mentioned that he still has the unified belts at 160 and he feels like he can continue his career as bad as that sounds. Now, who is he going to fight now? If he sticks with the zone, it's kind of a short list. Jaime Munguia, It was always on the table. That was a fight that was supposed to happen years ago. It's a dangerous fight now because we're dealing with a Golovkin that, to me, can't pull the trigger anymore. And even though he's a much better fighter than Munguia, if you can't pull the trigger, I can see Jaime just overwhelming him with the pressure and the punch output. So that's a potential option. Jaime is, I believe, ranked number 4 by the WBA. On the other hand, you have Ammo Williams, who is nowhere near ready for Golovkin even at this point. He did beat Conway on the undercard, but he had some tough moments over the first half of the fight and couldn't get out of the way of the jab and the right hand. That would be more of a gimme fight. But if Golovkin is looking for some easy paydays, maybe that's an option that for his comeback fight. Ammo was ranked number 6 by the WBA. And a more horrific thought, believe it or not, Sergio Martinez, the old champion, has been, having a comeback over in Spain. He is ranked number 3 by the WBA. So, as bad as that sounds, that is a fight that could potentially happen. Yeah, I don't even want to think anymore about that. But I could see that fight happening as a comeback fight. So keep that in mind on the DAZN side. Now, if Triple G is willing to test the waters over at PBC, if they're still willing to have him, there are some options over there. I believe Erislandy Lara, he is the interim the WBA world champion. That is a potential fight. I know they had talked about that years ago. Still a tricky fight because Lara can still move. But that is a fight on the table on the PBC side. That could be his intro fight before facing, a big fight against Jamal Charlo, who is currently the WBC middleweight champion. That is a fight that I don't see Triple G winning at this stage now. I think that's been solidified by his performance tonight. But if you were looking to cash out, that maybe can be an option. But other than that, I would love to see him retire. He has nothing left to prove. It's unfortunate that he didn't get that signature win. And I know it's kind of a bitter pill for a lot of Golovkin fans to swallow because even though he should have won the first fight on the cards, he's never had kind of that definitive victory against a top guy like that. So really he's going to be retiring more than likely with his best win being Danny Jacobs. So that's going to be kind of an unfortunate thing for his career. I still feel he's a Hall of Famer. He has a lot of title defenses against top 10 ranked middleweights, even though it was not the strongest era. But it does say something that that he was able to maintain a high level against, contenders, for years on end. But I know it's going to be a bitter pill for him that he didn't get at least one win over Canelo. But at 40 years old, there's not much left to prove. I do hope Golovkin retires, and I hope that we don't see many more fights like this. Rivalries need to be done quickly. This fight should not have taken 4 years to make, and we see the outcome from it. If we would have got this fight 6 months, even a year after the second fight, we might have had a really good trilogy on our hands. But what we got tonight was essentially a sparring session. So let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to you soon.